Hi, welcome to the video. So today I'm going to talk about some of the what I consider best deals if you want a variety of music in either tab or standard music, as far as price per song. The books that I'm going to talk about on either side of me mostly run from about 11 to 20 some cents per song, and that's for new copies. If you bought used, you could probably get it for like half that price. Uh, and they all have a variety of songs, which can help you to break out of your comfort zone and not just play like one genre all the time. But you might wonder, well, why should I even buy books if there's so much free stuff online nowadays? And I wouldn't say don't use online stuff, but I think it's not a good idea to have to be online to practice. If you're working on songs and all of them are online, so every time you go to practice your guitar, you have to turn on the computer and go to a website. I think it's too easy, especially for kids but adults, to get distracted by notifications, messages, other things that are going to pop up when you go online. And it's too easy to go down rabbit holes. And if you were going to go do 15 minutes of practice, you might not practice at all, or you might get 5 minutes by the time you actually get to your music and stuff. And just in general, I think online can potentially be stressful. And playing guitar is something that you don't need any of that. It can be a meditation-like thing where you calm and relax and just get into music without any distractions. So I think a book in those ways is a better way to go. But anyways, let's get into these. So I've got a couple different series that I'm going to talk about. One of the main series for tab books that I think you can't beat if you want a variety of music and not a specific album is the Guitar White Pages books. There's a bunch of different books on these. They're put out by Hal Leonard. You can, as I talk, I'll just kind of hold them up. You can kind of see some of the bands. It ranges everything from, stuff like Led Zeppelin, a lot of classic rock, Queen, Deep Purple, but also stuff like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Buddy Guy, B.B. King, Slipknot, Opeth, Ramones, Sex Pistols, Chet Atkins, Joe Pass, Wes Montgomery, Django Reinhardt, just really about every style you can think of other than classical on it. There's jazz, blues, country, punk, metal. So basically each book has 150 songs in it from, like I said, a variety of different artists. You can go online and see the exact lists, but you can kind of just take a quick look at some of the possibilities as I talk. Originally, they all were $29.99. And here's where I'm going to sidetrack for a second. I'm guessing this probably happened recently. Now the prices are all over the place, and something I didn't realize, so I was looking into these books a little bit more to see what current prices are, is that Hal Leonard is now owned by Muse Group, which started off as Ultimate Guitar and then changed their name as they bought up a bunch of applications, Audacity, Muse, Hal Leonard, which Hal Leonard is the biggest publishing company for print music in the world. And now when you look at the prices of the different books, before they were all 150 songs, about 1,000 pages, so they were all $29.99. I think Hal Leonard could keep it cheap like that because they were probably just pulling from their other songbooks, so they weren't actually having to do anything new other than just put them all in a compilation in one book. But now on Hal Leonard's website, you see them ranging from Volume 1 is $39.99, Volume 2 is $49.99, Volume 3 is still $29.99, Volume 4 is $34.99, which to me doesn't make any sense since the books are already completed and they're just printing more of them. And like I said, they're all about the same size, so why is one $50 and one $30? The good news is a lot of places other than Hal Leonard, you can still find them at reasonable prices. Guitar Center, I noticed, was doing a special where you buy the first 3 books as a set for $75, so that's like $25 a piece. That's even cheaper than what they were back when they first came out. You also can see some of the ones that are $39.99 being sold for $35 or $29 on other sites. So don't buy them from Hal Leonard directly, I'd say. Also perfectly fine to buy used copies. they all, in addition to the basic four ones, which each one is just a collection of different songs from different genres, they also put out a couple specialty ones. One called acoustic guitar, and again, all with 150 songs in each. One called blues guitar. So all these are kind of a good resource that you can try stuff, and I think they're equal or better than most of what you can find online as far as accuracy. They include chord boxes, standard music, all the different guitar parts, the solos, all that stuff. And the good thing on them too is you can try and push yourself a little bit. If you're on one of these books, you can try songs that you've never heard of. You can try genres you've never tried before, and just kind of skim through the book and try different things, and that's beneficial. If you're taking lessons, you can bring the physical book. You don't have to then go online during a lesson, and your teacher can write notes in it, or you can write notes in it about questions you had or circle things. So it's beneficial that way too. So yeah, good series on that. You know, some kind of weird ones, like, so I definitely check out the song selection. Like the acoustic one, you know, like you'd expect, it's got some, you know, acoustic players and some stuff like Beatles and you know, Garth Brooks and John Denver and that stuff. But what's kind of funny too is they have stuff like Ingrid Malmsteen's Black Star, just because the very intro is acoustic, and then the rest is, if you've heard it, all fast electric playing, and it's got you know, other stuff like Nirvana and Ozzy and stuff on it, so it's not what you necessarily expect in the acoustic book. And yeah, some, because of the years these came out, the first one came out 2001, though they've done a second edition, so they've updated a little bit more recent. But then the second one came out in 2003, which is the same year the acoustic one came out. Number 3 came out in 2005, and number 4 came out in 2012. So if you're looking for recent songs, you're not going to find them in here, because the most recent book is 2012. That one does have more stuff at, say, like, it's got stuff like Opeth and Slayer, and it's got stuff like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, and so some stuff that's a little bit different than some of the other ones. I'd say the first one had a little bit more, in addition to classic rock, jazz, and blues in it, but all of them, you know, had a few songs from it, just about all those genres I talked about. Now, another series that I want to talk about that is in standard music instead of tab is the Real Book, which I first got back in like 1984. This one's a 5th edition, so it's still one of the illegal ones on it. So the reason I say that is this book originally came out in mid-70s by a couple of Berkeley students who basically want to compile something that jazz players could use of jazz standards, but other people can use it. It's, you know, got, if you look at just random pages on it, it's got the standard notation, it's got the chord names on it. It's used by a lot of professional jazz players just as a way to have a quick outline of a song that they maybe don't know or don't remember completely, so you can open up the book and use it to refresh their memory or even sight read from it. But it's a good thing for players other than jazz players to play too, because it gives you some chord progressions you might not normally run into if you're mostly playing rock or metal. It lets you study some of the different melodies and stuff. What it doesn't do, because it's meant more as an outline, it doesn't have the impressive improvised solos from some of the jazz greats in it. It's just got them basically melody and the chords on it. Another thing it doesn't have, because it's not actually written for guitarists, which gave me trouble at first when I first got back in 1984. I was taking a jazz class at university, and they told me to buy this. And back then, because they weren't paying copyrights, it was still illegal, and I had to go to the music store and ask for it, because it kept it under the table, under the where the cashier was, so it was out of use since it wasn't actually a legal book. But it basically gives some of the basic chords written out like this, but it doesn't give any chord boxes or anything like that, because it's not actually written for guitarists. So at that point, that gave me a little bit of trouble. Some of the notations I wasn't even sure what they meant because they were using, things like the minus signs and some of the notations that's for minor and stuff like that. And there was no online internet to look things up on it. But worthwhile book. It comes out. It's got 400 songs. It's about $45 on it, so you can use it, especially if you just want either if you're kind of just getting into jazz and want the basic structure, melody, chords, or if you're a professional and just want to refresh your memory. Now, I would say if you really want to get good at jazz improvisation, then you probably should buy some of the books that actually transcribe some of the jazz solos into, so you can try and learn those. Not that you're going to imitate them, but so you can pull ideas from them. Now, what's happened is this became legal with the 6th edition. This still has the same look because they're trying to preserve that to keep the same audience. But Hal Leonard bought it up in 2004 on it, and now they've released like 40 books in the series. The first 6 are along the same format as the original one, with 400 different songs in each book. I haven't seen anyone, because I didn't even know they had this series beyond the original, that I had this before Hal Leonard even bought it up. But supposedly the first one that Hal Leonard did, they corrected some of the errors in it, and it's basically the same songs for the most part. So you could check those out. Some of the other ones, though, I definitely recommend stay away from, because they also have country, blues, rock, real books out now. Don't buy those. And the reason I say that is, in the original real book, they were basically the main melody a lot of time came from some of the old time singers and stuff. So that was what created the melody that the instrumentalists would play. But if you think about it, your average country, blues, rock player is not singing very melodically a lot of times. In fact, even on some of the sample pages on Hal Leonard's website, they would sometimes have an entire measure where they just say the same note, or singing the same note without any change. So playing rock, blues, country songs, just the vocal melody, will sound nothing like the original song, and they don't give any of the actual guitar parts. They just give the names of some guitar chords, and I don't even know how accurate those are. So it's going to sound nothing like the original song, and the melody isn't going to be anything. So those, I think, are a bad idea. They also have some ones that are for specific players, like Charlie Parker or Miles Davis and stuff, and like a bebop one. The same thing. I kind of feel like that it's the same format as a real book, but more expensive, because they only have like 57 songs in one, 70 in another, and they're not that much. They're like $25-$30 or so for these. But they also leave off all the solos and stuff. And I think if you're learning like Charlie Parker and stuff, or Miles Davis, or any of these players, you probably you're better off to get ones that include their solos, so you can try and learn from that, and not just the basic melody. Because like one of the songs I was looking at, it literally only had 13 bars of notes, and then 23 bars with no notes that said improvisation, and just showed some chord names over top of the measures. They also had a real book tab book. It basically was just worse than the other ones and more expensive, in that it had, like 120 songs for $39.99 instead of the 150 ones, and it didn't have any chord boxes. It didn't have any chord rhythms. It didn't have all. It looked like it from the sample pages. It didn't necessarily have all the guitar parts, and so it's just an inferior version of the White Pages one. Another book. If you are into classical, let me just say what I do on that. I do have a lot of books on specific ones, like Pagny Caprices, or books of etudes, or other things like that. They can be worthwhile to get, but I think for most part what I do now mostly is just go online, because the classical stuff is almost all in public domain, so you can get scores and books that were written 100 years ago or more, and you can download and print those out for free. So for classical, that's why I didn't list a specific classical one. If you're a beginner, another book that a lot of my students have had success with, and it doesn't matter if you're even Christian or into Christmas, but Best Christmas Guitar Fate book, 150 songs, and really ranging from, because fit 150 songs, a lot of them are traditional like melodies and carols going back to like 1600s. They've got a couple instrumental pieces like Bach's Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, along with all the stuff like Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all the other things you'd expect in Christmas songs. But why I think that one's good is it's very simple. It's all just an open position, and it's recognizable melodies. So it allows a beginner to play something they can recognize that's actually really simple, and isn't and usually only like a page long on it. So that's a good option if you just want to get some simple melodies that you'll probably recognize. Anyways, I think I'll leave it at that. If you guys know any other books you think are good sources, or have any input on experience with playing any of these other ones, leave a comment. Otherwise, please like and subscribe. I will be coming out soon with another video that I'm going to talk about what I think is the best publisher for accuracy. A publisher that works with the actual artists to make sure that the books are accurate. So I'll come out with that soon and talk about that. But that one, you're paying about $35 for a single album transcription, so it's not going to be the value of these as far as, cost and variety. All right, thanks for watching.